Great Holy Spirit, earth, sun, sky, and sea, you are inside and all around me. All around me, all around us. You're like a powerful violet light shining into our souls. And as prisms, they reflect that light back out into the universe and make it beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for life. Thank you for the opportunity to be here in this paradise for another day. Thank you. Amen. Howdy. How many of you are here specifically to hear what I have to tell you today? The rest of you are dismissed. Last week we talked about how powerful and how important and how valuable joy is to our lives. A life not lived in joy is a life not lived. A life not lived in joy is an empty thing, a shell with nothing in the center of it. A coconut with no meat. And yet, to be in joy is to be able to trust, because the only way that life makes any sense at all is if I'm constantly stepping beyond the boundaries of my comfort zone. And if I stay within the boundaries of my comfort zone, then what am I doing here? Why life? If you look down on a racetrack, horse racetrack, and here are these powerful, immense beings with rippling muscles and shining coats and great hearts and great lungs and long, fast legs, and they thunder around that track, and it's so great. And if you look down on that, you'll see them going around and around and around and around and around. And so are we, magnificent, glorious beasts, filled with power and challenge and passion. And if you look down on our lives, you see us going around and around and around and around and around. Get up in the morning, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, take my shower, get myself together. And then I go out to my JOB job or to my SCHOL school or to my tea or to my bingo or whatever I do, and I just go around and around and around. And you know, I've very carefully manufactured this little island of safety, very carefully. Why? Because it's safe. I have my group of friends. I have my political beliefs. I go to my church. I know my name and my family. And some people in my family, I have a wonderful relationship, and some of them I don't have such a wonderful relationship, but it's all part of my identity, part of who I think I am. And so I carry myself through life in that way. And when I'm a little kid, when I'm like just becoming conscious, like I'm 1 or 2 years old, I'm just discovering. And I see a mud puddle and I go, whoa! And Mom says, don't you get in that mud puddle. Okay, right into the mud puddle. Constantly risking, constantly trying new things, constantly being told, be careful of that, don't go near that, come back from here, get down from that tree. You know, constantly be told, don't risk, don't risk, don't risk, don't risk. And finally we create this little thing called our identity. It's our identity. It's who we think we are. this wonderful grandfather, and he's sitting reading his book, and he's tending his little granddaughter who's like 3 years old. And she comes in with her little tea set and a little cup, beautiful little cup of tea for Grandpa. And it's just water, but he takes it and he drinks it and he says, thank you. This connection between him and his granddaughter who's taking risks. I mean, would Grandma bring him a cup of water and say, but the granddaughter brings him, oh, thank you, dear, that's so delicious, thank you. And like every 3 or 4 minutes, she's back with another one. And his wife comes home and says, so what's going on? He says, well, little Sally's making me tea and bringing it to me, and here she comes again. Look at this, isn't this sweet? Thank you, dear, that's so delicious. And the mother says, did it ever occur to you that the only water she can reach is the toilet? But he trusted. He had faith in his granddaughter. And you know what? It isn't going to kill him. He'll be fine. And hopefully that won't put some sort of barrier between him and his granddaughter. No, I don't want any of that. Get away from me. But today let's talk a little bit about, wait just a second. I think that the title of today's talk is Cleaning Out Your Mental Closet. Is that right? Thank you. I just found that out a few minutes ago. Yeah, have not a clue what it means, but we're going to talk about that. So, cleaning out your mental closet. So here's the problem. The problem is that as we accumulate information, be with me now, as we accumulate information, the information that we accumulate is not information about truth or about reality, but the information that we need to keep us safe. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, safe. Stay inside my box. Stay inside my comfort zone. But I challenge you to not live a safe life. Because otherwise it has no meaning. Ask yourself, when was the last time I took a real risk? When was the last time I stepped outside my comfort zone? New family moved in down the block, four houses down the block. They looked a little different. The color of their skin or the size of their bodies, or they had all of these ragtag kids that were making, whatever. You make a cake and take it down to them and say, I'm your neighbor, welcome to our neighborhood? Or do you just say, well, eventually we'll probably meet in the grocery store. Eventually they'll kind of very slowly fit their way inside my comfort zone, my little box. You like your job if you're working? And you've got some things to say about the job. You've got some things to say about the company or the organization. You've got some things to say about how it could be better. Do you say them? Sure, of course you do. To each other. Does anybody go and tell the boss, can I talk to you for a minute? We could do this better. I did a week's consulting for General Dynamics, which is the largest defense contractor probably in the world. And I was talking to all of the top level people in the company. And as I was talking to them, I realized that there were these people up at the top who were sitting in their offices, and the offices were back in the back, and in the front was another office where their secretary / receptionist, and then there was this little space, and then there was a door which was always closed. And for you to get through that first door, past the secretary, past the second door, all the way to the back was pretty difficult to do. And the guys that I'm talking to are saying, we've got some problems down on the factory floor, and we're just not sure how to handle those. But they had no connection with the people down on the factory floor. So a risk would be to get down to the people on the factory floor. So here's what I said. You're going to love this. Here's what I said. I said, what you need to do is go down onto the factory floor and walk around and talk to the people and get to know them. Get to know who's in college, get to know who's sick, get to know how many kids, get to know something about the families. Find out about them. Well, gee, they said to me, I don't know how you do that. Well, how to do it? You don't know how to do it? I feel pretty stupid right now. I got to tell you, if I'm saying, okay, here's what you do. You get up. I mean, this is so ridiculous. Past your desk, you walk past your secretary, you go out into the hallway, you walk down the hallway, you go down the steps or take the elevator or whatever it is, drive across town, wherever the factory is, and you talk to those people. Okay? Can we do that? They sort of looked bewildered, and then one of them said, but how do you do that? And by now it began to occur to me that this really was a foreign concept. So I said, is there a lunch wagon or a breakfast thing or a coffee trucker that comes by? And, oh yeah, it comes by at 10 o'clock in the morning and, there's a break and people go out and have coffee. Good. Here's what I want you to do. Loosen your tie or take it off, unbutton your collar, roll your sleeves up, leave your jacket here, go down on the factory floor, walk out to the lunch wagon, get a cup of coffee, even if you don't drink coffee, get a donut, even if you won't eat it, and then just go talk to people. Hey, how you doing? I'm Fred. How's life going? And just talk to people and just get to know them. Well, how do you do that? Woo. We never really got anywhere, incidentally. That was one of my great failures of the world. These are highly intelligent people sitting in this meeting, highly intelligent people, so experienced, engineers. They got to their position from the ground up as engineers, and they are powerful, intelligent people, and they want answers. I was doing the same kind of a workshop up on Mount Fujiyama for some of the top Japanese industrialists in the world. People with last names like Yamaha and Yokohama and Mitsubishi and Toyota and Honda. Top people with those names, top people were there for 5 days in this retreat, and what they asked me to come to Japan to do is teach them how to get the people that are down on that next level up to management, because they want to retire and they want to bring up that number 2 person and put them in that position. But they're having a hard time doing that. Reason they're having a hard time doing that, incidentally, is because in Japan, everyone stays the same. They have a saying in Japan that the nail that sticks up is the one that gets hammered. So don't stick up. Be like everyone else. And we worked together for 5 days, and in 5 days, we didn't get anywhere. Because I said, well, every Friday evening or afternoon, take the last hour from the work, and have these people come together and talk about the person that's made the most difference in this particular unit this week. And then find a way to find out who those people are, and then look at those people for leadership and begin to cultivate them into leadership. Well, you can't really do that. Why not? Well, because they're all the same. And if you bring one of them up above the others, that one will get hammered by the others back to where they belong. So nice to be an American. But you and I are given freedom. That's what we have. In all of the democratic nations of the world, we have freedom. That doesn't mean, incidentally, that we're free from some tyrant, oppressive government coming in and pushing us down. That isn't what freedom means. Freedom means I'm free to step outside of my comfort zone. I'm free to take a risk. I'm free to become more than I thought I was yesterday. I got this tie. I might have talked to you about this tie once before. I bought this in the Korean underground. I was walking along, and there's these little shops down below the streets, and I was walking along, and I saw this tie hanging in a window, and I loved it. Oh, I just thought it was the coolest tie ever. But I already knew, silk ties, and I thought, oh, God, huge amount of money. So I'm not going to spend all that money on that tie. And I just kept walking and walking. Finally, I said, go back and ask about the tie. Get out of your box, Bob. Come on, take a risk. So I went back and I said, excuse me, how much is that tie? And the guy said, so many, foreign currency. And I said, well, what is that in dollars? And he said, just a minute, $4.50. I have the tie. There's a guy that's got a little tie shop, and he's got it right out in the desert. In the desert, believe it or not, in the desert. And the guy walks up to the tie shop, little tie shop, and the guy walks up, and the guy is just bedraggled. He's just falling apart. And he says, I need water. Please, can I just have some water? The guy says, I'm sorry, we don't have any water, but I have ties. I said, I don't want a tie. I'm dying of thirst here. I need water. Give me a drink of water. Would you mind? I said, we don't have water. Well, I have ties. I got a nice silk tie. I'll sell you for $5. I don't want a tie. I want water. He said, well, sorry. The guy's angry, and he starts to walk away. The tie guy goes, wait a minute. I'm a good guy. I'm going to step outside here and give you a little hint. See that sand dune right there? Go over the top of that sand dune and continue on for 2 miles, and you come to a little restaurant. They've got great food and they've got water. 2 miles? Yeah, it's not a problem. The guy goes. Later that same afternoon, the guy comes back over the sand dunes, crawling now. Crawling. And this tie guy's watching him come up, and he says, what? He says, they won't let me in without a tie. I challenge you. Stop being a horse on a racetrack. I challenge you. Let risk become your middle name. And risk, incidentally, doesn't mean taking a gamble, taking a chance, jumping off a bridge and hoping that there'll be water underneath. Risk means taking a calculated step outside of your comfort zone. And you cannot do that, my friends, unless you're just a daredevil. You cannot do that without faith, without trust. You cannot do that without trust. And as you do that, as you trust, something changes inside of you. Something new is born inside of you. That identity that you have of being constrained, the walls of that identity begin to melt away, and you begin to become more of who you are, and you begin to grow. And why else are we here? We are eternal beings. We were never born and we will never die. We live forever. We have lived forever. There's no end. It goes on forever. And as we move through eons and eons and eons of space-time, all we're here to do is unfold ourselves as souls. Unfold ourselves as souls. And how can we do that unless we take risks? How can we do that unless we have faith? And faith is the old word for the present word called trust. How can we do that without trust? So, look, if you will, at this moment of life as though it's like a cafeteria. And in the cafeteria, they've got these trays, obviously, and little racks, and you slide them along, and I'll take 2 of these and 1 of these. And the same kind of thing, except that in this one, when you step up to the counter, this is called birth. When you step up to the counter, these 2 little guards that come up on either side of you and go ka-chink, and you can't move left or right. You're stuck there. And you look, and there's a guy in a little cap and behind it, and he's got a ladle, and there's this pot of stuff in front of him, and he says, "Would you like some of this?" And you say, "Well, I don't know. What is it?" And the guy says, "It's goat huevos." I thought huevos was eggs. It is. Well, but don't ask. Would you like some? No, I wouldn't like some, thank you. Let me move on. But I can't move on because I've got this little thing holding me here. And I can't move on through life when I'm in resistance to what's going on right now in life. I cannot move on. I cannot take a risk. I cannot get outside of my comfort zone. I cannot become more of who I am. I cannot become more of an asset to the world around me, to the people around me, to my family, to my nation, to my world. I cannot do any of that until I surrender to what's going on right now. I can't do it. So what's going on in your life right now? What are your goat huevos that you're unwilling to try? All right. I've been here forever. Let me try the goat huevos. Okie doke, here's goat huevos. Okay, thanks. All right, I tried them. Let me move. No, you can't move. You become one with them. And when you're one with them, then who you are and who they are allows you to move on. And finally you say, these are not bad. And then a guy there says, "Would you like some of this?" And you say, "Dare I ask what it is?" Probably not. Would you like to taste it? In order for you to keep moving, and incidentally, if you just reach your head out and look that way down the line and that way down the line, you'll see that this cafeteria line goes out of sight like a highway on the desert. And over there you see it like a highway on the desert coming toward you. It's a loop. All of life is in a circle. All of life is in a circle. Everything is circular. As you move forward into eternity, constantly expanding, constantly becoming more, constantly becoming enriched, and being able to enrich the lives of others. Unless you do that, my question is, what are we doing here? Why? But you have to have faith. King David, way back 4,000 or so years ago, had faith. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for the Lord is my shepherd. Because Great Spirit is in me, around me, through me, loving me, protecting me, filling me, and challenging me to be more, to do more, to have more. How many of you are right-handed? Let me see your hands. Right hand? Thank you. How many are left-handed? See your hands? Right? Good. How many of you are ambidextrous? There's a few. What's that other hand doing? While you're eating with your right hand and doing everything, what's that other hand there for? Teach it to write, teach it to eat, teach it to do something. Develop that side of your brain. Take a risk. Be a student again. Start over again. Trust. Trust me. Trust yourselves. Trust each other. Learn to trust the goodness in each other. Woman comes home and she knows her husband's having an affair. She knows it. She comes home and she's going to catch him at it because this is exactly the time that she's sure he's been having an affair. So she comes stealthily in the door, opens it, and it goes, should I oil those hinges? He hears it. She knows he hears it. But she runs into the house and she says, where is she? Where's who? He said, he's watching television. Where's who? I know you had someone here. I know she was here. Who? Who was here? Who was here? What are you talking about? I'm watching television. Don't you trust me? I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I'll find her. So this woman's going through the house and she's going crazy and she's going mad and she's going faster and faster and she's looking up under the beds and she's looking in the closets and she's looking under stuff and behind stuff and inside of stuff and she's going and going and going and going and finally she has a heart attack and she falls down dead. And the next minute she's in heaven. And she meets her dear friend Martha there. And she says, Martha, you're in heaven. She said, yeah. She said, I'm in heaven. She said, how did you die? She said, I froze to death. Oh, God, I'm so sorry to hear that. How did you die? I had a heart attack. You had a heart attack? Yeah. I thought that Joe was fooling around, so I just started running through the house like a crazy person, trying to find whoever he was having an affair with, and I finally just fell down and had a heart attack. And the other lady said, I wish you'd have looked in the freezer. We have one chance. And this is one chance. You get one ticket. You don't get a bunch of tickets. You get one ticket. One ticket on this ride. One ticket. And if you take a chance, you will find joy more powerful, more splendid than you ever dreamed of. All the Hanukkah candles and Christmas trees and sunsets and sunrises and the tear on a child's cheek and the prism in a raindrop and all of the joy of the world will be there for you. All of it, all of it. But if you stay inside of your little gray circle, then what you get is what you got yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. And there's not going to be much joy in that. There will be a solace in that. A quietness, a contemporary conservativeness, a boredom, but there'll be no joy. Because joy comes when you win. And you can't win unless you risk. Guy wants to be wealthy. Oh, God, he wants to be wealthy. Oh, it's like the fiddler on the roof. Would it be so hard? He wants money. He just wants to be rich. And he goes to the temple and he prays. I want to be rich. Can you just let me be rich? Maybe you'd let me win the lottery. The drawing's on Saturday. I'm a good person. I just want to be rich. Saturday comes, they do the drawing, he doesn't win. Goes back to the temple, he says, would it be so hard for you to let me win the lottery just one time? Voice comes and says, would it be so hard for you to buy a ticket? You got to step outside of the box. You got to do something you haven't done before in a way you've never done it before. You've got to believe. You've got to trust. Because unless you do, you will die unfulfilled. I worked for a long time as an ambulance driver and a paramedic, and I watched a good number of people die. And I got to a place where I could talk to the people before they died and ask them, do you have any regrets? And in my book, Romancing the Soul, I talk a little bit about one particular guy, Leon Ames. And Leon Ames, I still remember this day so clearly. I had taken his wife to the hospital several times because she was a diabetic, and we had sort of become friends because I spent a lot of time with her and with him. She died. About a month later, I got a call to go out to the Avenues. It was in San Francisco, and I knew this address. I knew that's where Leon lived. And I went out to pick up Leon, and he was having a heart attack, and he was really in severe distress. He was having a hard time breathing. We didn't have paddles or any of that stuff in those days. We just waited until they died, and then we did CPR, and then we buried him. So Leon is in the ambulance, and I'm talking to him, and as we're going to the hospital, and I said, Leon, do you have any regrets when you look back? He said, oh, yeah. Now, are you ready for this? I said, what? He's quiet for a little bit, and then he actually starts crying. It's too late. It's too late. Leon, what? He said, my boat. I never built my boat. And now I'm a sailor. I'm a sea captain. I mean, I know boats. So I said, so Leon, tell me about your boat. And he said, you know, Bob, I designed a boat, and I designed it in such a way, it took me years and years and years to figure it out, that the boat would go through the water and in such a way that it didn't have to fight the water, that it embraced the water and allowed the water to caress it rather than stop it. And I said, really? He said, yes. And I never built my boat because I had to put my kids through college, and I had to keep the grocery store. He had a little grocery store. I had to keep the grocery store alive. Had to take care of all of these things, and I just never built my boat. And I took him into the hospital, Kaiser Hospital on Geary Street. He died. I went back out to the ambulance and sat down waiting for my attendant to come out, and he was doing the paperwork. And I remember the rain coming down and going down the windshield, and it was like tears. And I was so moved, I was so profoundly moved by Leon's tears, but what Leon had said. And I said to myself, Bob, do you have a boat to build? I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, I wasn't, this driving an ambulance wasn't my life's work, but I didn't know what my life's work was. So I'd done a jillion things. I'd been a forester and a firefighter and a truck driver and a truck driving instructor and a singer and an actor and a comedian. I'd just done tons and tons, but I was never content. And I thought, geez, I need to find my boat. And I started struggling and looking and changing and taking risk after risk after risk, constantly taking risks, constantly stepping outside the box, getting knocked down, getting hammered, getting slandered, being misunderstood. I'm a high school dropout, so I only had a 10th grade education, so any other education I had to fight my way through to get it. I just was constantly fighting to trying to find out, what am I supposed to be doing in life? And somehow, in the midst of all that, actually not so much somehow, but if you read my book, God's Phone Number, you see I was in this giant hurricane that just wiped out so many people. And it taught me to get out of my way, to shut my ego down, to move outside of the box and do what really made a difference, which is what I'm doing right now. And I began to speak, and I began to write, and I began to travel all over the world doing this work. I'd have never found that if it hadn't been for Leon Ames. He didn't build his boat, but he built my boat. So what I'm asking you to do today is to start looking for who you really are. And it doesn't matter how old you are, and it doesn't matter how young you are. If you still have a heart and you're still walking upright, you still have work to do. Vital, precious, powerful, important work. I was called that day to take Leon to the hospital, and on his way to dying, on his way to stepping out of this dimension into the next dimension, on his way to doing that, he said to me, "Bob, go build your boat." And today what I'm saying to you is, please, for all of our sakes, and the sakes of those generations that will come a million years after you, please go build your boat. Thank you.